Hi friends, this is Capun Piso, bringing out some points that nobody seems to realize. We have this movie about the warlord Kony, which actually is a Christian. It's an offshoot of Christianity, with the mental illness of Christ psychosis, as I call it. And he has an army that is called the Lord Resistance Army, based on the Ten Commandments, on the Bible. And he's causing all kind of atrocities because of his Christ psychosis, believing in resurrecting somebody that's saved with blood. But everybody emphasizes him and the atrocities. Nobody emphasizes, Christianity infected America and Nazism. Christian Hitler, the Christian Crusades, Christian Inquisitions, Christian Columbus and the rape of Americas. And I can go on and on and on. The Christian lady that drowned her kids, the Christian that molested children, some pastors and all that. The Vatican is worse, because they molest the mind of children. And all Christians molest the mind of children. Indirectly, they make them commit suicide, bullying, homophobia, racism. They enslave blacks. That's all Christian. And nobody mentions it. Nobody seems to see it. Lord Resistance Army, Kony. Christian Kony. Nobody calls him what it is. And here are some clips. You'll be surprised. Because Christian America was responsible for, helping Christian Hitler, 1932. A lot of American industrialists helped Christian Hitler, Christian American industrialists, like Henry Ford, for instance, 1932 or so. And, in the United States of America, there was a program, eugenics, to actually get rid of the mentally impaired, which is kind of funny, because they should get rid of all the Christians. Anybody that believes in God is impaired, neurologically impaired, and they don't see it. Because the people themselves created those programs are Christianity-infected imbeciles. So, especially in California, and they had a program in eugenics, a sterilization of people that they deemed feeble-minded. And guess who loved the program? Christian Hitler, that wanted to get rid of the feeble-minded in Germany. See, what Christianity infected America doesn't understand is that Christianity came from the cult of Divus Julius around the 4th century. And that was all of a sudden the Vatican, all that became established. They create their own history. They distort everything. They lie and lie and lie to everybody, creates their own version. So they're in control of everything, even today, with the councils of the church. So the Pope is a Christ psychosis infected imbecile, the ones that started everything. And of course, they are intolerance, sadomasochism, pedophilia, racism, etc., etc., etc. And so that is the reason United States, created that system of eugenics and all that from all Christianity, and then Nazism. Christian Hitler, established that too in them. They loved the Americans. Americans love all that because they're all Christians. They protected the Christ killer executioners. So they were the Nazis, the Christian Nazis. And they helped them escape to Argentina. And they also, etc. All that history is there for all to see. Moron, he belongs in a mental institution.
We're taking no chances that our people will not have a really accurate understanding of what marriage is and to the impact on society should the definition of marriage.
You moron! He doesn't understand what marriage is.
Things are changing.
You're from the Roman Empire, you imbecile. Even in Egypt, 5,000 years ago.
I guess you say your strategy.
What a theotarded imbecile.
43% of Catholics
Who
have no problem with gay
The
marriage.
guy's psychotic.
Well, their
Screwed up.
teaching is outside the realm of Catholic teaching for 2,000
Catholic
years.
teaching is imbecile teaching, stuck in the past.
They want to focus on, so they'll
Crazy.
be able to have what I would call an intellectual conversion.
You don't have an intellect, imbecile.
Marriage as the union of one man, one woman.
Bullshit.
Bishop Richard Malone, thanks for...
See all this intolerance? These guys are incredibly psychotic, just like any schizophrenics. And they're stuck in the Middle Ages. and they're still with us today, free. And they are psychotic and they mentally ill, and they should be in a mental institution. All these priests. So, and this is what they don't see. The intolerance is caused by believing God, which is a psychosis. And they don't see it. This is the cause of it. And now you'll see these other atrocities that happen because of Christianity. The virulent disorder, the HIV of the brain, believing a resurrected zombie that's saved with blood. Psychopathy. That induces also sadomasochism for obvious reasons. And while religious psychosis, like Christianity, molest and destroys the mind of children, rape the mind of children, then we have Kony, the Lord Resistance Army, the Christian psychopath that destroys their bodies. They rape and actually use a blood sacrifice, killing them and destroying their parents, and completely rape them, and cause all this blood sacrifice, and nobody, just like Christian Hitler killing the Jews, exactly the same thing. You take a Christ-psychotic, infected, imbecile psychopath to actually do that. Hey, Christianity has a record of psychopathy, crusades, inquisitions, etc., and all that. Now we have Kony, a Christian, with the Bible teachings as the moral virtue of their beliefs, their psychopathy.
And their leader, Joseph Kony.
Christian!
Thanks to a new video called Kony 2012. Viral, tens of millions of views on YouTube in just a few days.
Christian!
Makers used the hacktivist group Anonymous and others to blast it out over the internet.
These tens of millions of viewers of this film don't know who is responsible for these atrocities. They don't understand that the one responsible is Christianity, the cult of the Christian that came from Rome in the 4th century. That's the cause of all these psychopathies. And it caused the Crusades, it caused the Inquisition, it caused the religious wars, it caused the rape of America, genocide, sadomasochism, pedophilia, homophobia, all that from it. Blood sacrifice. And that's the reason. They don't know it. But I'm exposing it all the time. Christ psychosis.
Him as fun and engaging one moment, brooding and paranoid the next. According to his sons, George Bush, Joseph Kony, the warlord now known to many in the West, is a formidable leader, analysts say, who claims supernatural powers.
By this Holy Spirit that gives him an ability to predict the battles, to plan things out.
In a long campaign, Kony's Lord's Resistance Army has abducted tens of thousands, forced soldiers, killed or disfigured villagers who've even hesitated to support him, with Ugandan and other African units to capture or kill Joseph Kony. Americans' role?
The flow of intelligence.
They're all Christians.
Logistics planning, so
all Christians, Christ-psychotic crusaders.
Forces can sustain themselves for long.
Anybody remember about Christian Hitler, about sterilization and all the handicapped people and feeble-minded and the homosexual that have been killed? And the Jews, of course, put in gas chambers because Hitler was a Christ-psychotic. You know that all Christians started that. The Crusades and the psychopathy and the religious wars, the rape of Americans, natives, and all that. That's a fact, historical fact, with the evidence to back it up. You know that, Christ-psychotic infected America also did the same thing. Forced sterilization. Remember that they were racist and the blacks were inferior and all the Christian lunatics running around, and this is the reason they don't like Obama, because they're racist pieces of shit, all these Christ-psychotic infected imbeciles, still in the past, in the Middle Ages. In California, they have also sterilization in the 1930s. The KKK is also a Christian organization, all these pieces of shit. But anyway, now the truth is coming up slowly. You have to check this out. It's very, very interesting. Check it out. California, they make this sterilization program and all that, and Hitler loved it. Christian Hitler loved it, so he asked advice, and they sent him a book in the 1930s.
Virginia,
and a full third of the nation's total.
See that?
It was led by California's elite, including, at the time, the president of Stanford University and the publisher of the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah, Christians.
The efficiency of California's program didn't go unnoticed. The Nazi Party in Germany was so impressed it asked for advice, and Californians leading the program were only too happy to help.
Exactly, see that?
So eugenicists this book to the Nazis.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So the Nazis used this book as a model for their sterilization.
Exactly, Christians,
Absolutely.
fellow Christians.
Germany used California's program as its chief example that this was a working, successful policy.
Enforced sterilizations, but decades later, not a leader in making amends to victims. A few by one scholar's estimate, but the state has offered no reparations.
Oh, Christians! Christian in the United States?
Years, but says he can't even get a politician to talk to him.
Yeah, they are Christians.
His own state
Respect.
representative, who also refused an interview request from CNN.
They never say the word Christianity. Never. Forced sterilization by who? The Christian infected government of US. When they talk about Nazi Germany, the Christianity infected Nazi Christian government of Hitler. See, they never mention Christianity. These imbeciles, they don't mention the word Christianity. Everything, all these are Christian. United States is a Christian nation, like it or not. You know, it is a fact. It's a Christ psychosis infected nation. They give the rules for everything. These imbeciles, the KKK established racism. They enslave all the native, the trail of tears. They rape the Navajos, they destroy the Navajo, they enslave all that. They are Christians. You know, what is the reason of there is no gay marriage and homophobia? Christians. Bullying in school? Christians. Female drowning kids? Christians. You know, people don't want any medicine? Scientologists? Christians. You know, many wives and all that problem? Christians. Mormon Christians. And they never say it. It's a psychosis. And nobody mentions the word. They should mention anything. Christians. The word Christian in fact all these psychosis things. And nobody seems to see it.
Up to the fact that Joseph Kony right now is listening to the world.
He's a Christian. Christ psychotic. Don't forget that.
Right now, because he.
As you can see here, hey, these are facts. I present facts. Everything that I say has the evidence to back it up. See, I don't bullshit. Tell it like it is. And everybody omits the word Christian in front of all these atrocities. When something is really good, they say the Christian person, the pious and all that. But when something is really bad and commit heinous atrocities, they say the dictator, the warlord and all that. They never mention the religious psychosis that infects these people. Because religion is organized schizophrenia. And the reason religion and schizophrenia are not linked as one and the same type of a psychosis, the believing God as a schizophrenia, is because of the DSM-4, which is a diagnostic statistic manual of mental disorders, created around 1840s by, guess who in America? Christians. That was even before Freud, a Jew, an atheist, came around and really started explaining about the mind and all that, and psychoanalysis. And so this being updated. The DSM, and the last revision was in 2000, and they never, because of obvious reasons, there are a bunch of Christ psychosis infected theotards and imbeciles. They don't mention believing God as a for the neurological disorder it is. The bizarre mathematical beliefs composed at the root of all religions, including the Warlord Kony, you know, he's a Christian, you know. They are all these bizarre mathematical beliefs composing all religions are also at the root of neurological disorders, schizotype, schizoaffective disorders like schizophrenia, temporal lobe epilepsy, etc., etc., etc. Believing God is a mental illness. Religion is organized as schizophrenia. Nobody mentions that. An atheist is a mentally healthy person, and they never mention that. So all atheists, please, what I suggest every time, you never say atheist by itself. Always say mentally healthy, also known as atheism. Mental health. See, Christ psychosis made this man rip his own eyes during service in church. This is illness. It's a mental illness. And then we must define atheism. It's a person that does not believe in the things. For thousands of years ago, if a person, they have a different way to define these people. And it works since ancient Egypt and hieroglyph and all that. Then the written language, was invented. And 2,300 years ago, 2,700 years ago, all that. Then it comes all to express what atheist means without without, and then theos is God, without believing God or imaginary friends. And Egypt started, then the Phoenicians started all that, then Greece, and then the the language, Greek language. The Roman adopted that. So the Roman atheos, which come from basically from ancient Egypt, then other wording or written language, and then the Greece, and then the Romans adopted in the language without, then theos or deus, theism. The Romans copied from different cultures. So you have the language. So atheism means lacking belief, no belief. So when a person has no belief and has reasoning, you can call it a mentally healthy person. If a person all of a sudden start believing, you bumping him in the head and he start to believe, or you have a malfunction, then you're no longer an atheist. You have a belief. In the moment that you have a belief in nonsense, you're no longer an atheist. You have a problem with the brain. Religious is a psychosis because all religions have belief in nonsense. And despite an education and all that, you still believe in Mickey Mouse, Santa Claus, and resurrecting zombies that say with blood and all that. You're no longer sane. You have a problem with the brain. This is what people should realize. Faith is a psychosis. It's believing without evidence to back it up. So your mind is going someplace else. So in the moment that you're thinking very healthy, and you're sane, and you're scientific and all that, you're an atheist, and all of a sudden you have a problem with your brain, you're no longer an atheist. You start believing in nonsense. So you have to get your brain examined. This is the problem that people don't understand. Religion is a mental illness. Faith in God is a mental illness. It's like not different than schizophrenia. In other words, religion is organized as schizophrenia. I am sick and tired of neurologists and psychiatrists not defining the belief in God, which is as a mental illness that it is. It's a psychopathy. And you have Christians running around churches molesting the mind of children, and that's the reason you have all this sadomasochistic and perversion. Here is a 1978 massacre of a Reverend Jim Jones in Guyana. Well, the fact is that we are evolved, mutated primates, product of coitus, that create God and imaginary friends with our brains. That is a fact. Now, accepting those bizarre mythological beliefs as true is a neurological disorder that is containing all religious faith and also in schizophrenia. Now, let me explain to you where this Christian, the psychopathy of the God that resurrected and saved with blood, came from. I'm going to do this very fast. I'm going to put as an example the Basilica, Roman courthouse, Basilica of St. John Lateran in Rome. And I was studying the whole structure of the building, and it's a Roman building basilica, and how these people, the Catholic, which means universal Church of the Christus, has corrupted the mind of children, the mind of everyone, for 1,700 years, initiating the psychosis of God belief or resurrected zombie belief. And they destroy and corrupt the mind of children, which in a way is worse than what Kony is doing and all this, the Hitler and the Inquisition, all that, because by corrupting the mind, you start believing in those delusions, you become a psychopath. And this has been happening for 1,700 years and nobody seems to see it. Christianity is the worst of these psychopathies, the neurological disorders that we don't need in this 21st century and because of all the problems. And here is the way they pervert the mind in St. John Lateran. All the Christian churches in the whole world for 1,700 years after the destruction of the disintegration of the Roman Empire and the initiation of the Dark Ages and stagnating the intellect of mankind and people. So they're still with us today, the psychopathy of God belief today of the Christus. which is psychopathy. It's a nonsense that nobody seems to see, a disorder. And here it is. This is the way they corrupt it with the fantasies. Rituals of the Catholic Universal Church of the Christus. So for the umpteenth time, the brain is the creator of the bizarre metamagical beliefs of God and all the kind of bullshit. We're in the 21st century. There is no God without a brain to create it. No thoughts. Believing God is a mental illness. Deal with it. Well, this is where you corrupt and you control the mind of people. Feeble-minded people susceptible to a disorder of God belief, because the parents are the first that actually corrupt children during the imprinting period and so forth. And if you have a weak mind, a weak brain susceptible to a disorder, then you start believing that despite of an education. This is what's happening in Christianity and in all religions. The Catholic Church, very intelligent, but they didn't know about the brain. And this is in the 4th century. And the way they control everything with religion is by controlling the 5 senses. You have the sense of sight. You have an amazing place with a lot of gold and a lot of mysterious things. Usually big monumental buildings that make you feel like you are so inferior, you're like a worm. That creates control. Then also you have the hearing. You have all the sounds, very deep sounds, you know, like that, but deep sounds, like thunder. That controls that. Then they control the smell by having different fragrances and incense and things like that. Then you control the taste by giving the person communion, which is hallucinogenic materials and flowers and all that. This has been done for thousands of years. So you have that. Then you control also the movement of the person. Because in the moment that you hear a noise or the God is speaking and all that, they used to do that in ancient Greece, with mechanical devices in the temples, then you bow and you go down like this and you bow. Then they make another noise and then you go like this. So they're controlling everything. They're controlling the sense of sight with all these flowers and gold and all that thing. Bow. At the same time, you're doing this. And you're controlling yourself up and down. So they are making the mental control. They actually didn't realize about the brain creating the thinking. The thinking was done with the heart. Because the brain didn't know what it was. The Egyptians actually got rid of the brain during mummification. They had no idea, but the heart contained the soul and the spirit and the person's feeling and everything else, so they left it in the body for resurrection. That's why some Christians believe in resurrection. They don't believe in cremation like the Roman did. So this is where it comes from. The whole thing comes from. But the church has been doing all that, modifying by the council of the church everything, all the fairy tales and mental psychosis, the psychosis of God belief that they have. That's the way they control it, and you can see here in the church. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant the way they control the senses, and people don't realize it, so they're infected. And you can be an astrophysicist, you can be a scientist, you can be anything you want, because the Catholic Church has an observatory. They are scientists, but they're still psychotic, because mental illness does not discriminate. You can have schizophrenics that are extremely intelligent, but they believe in all this stuff. That's the reason you have all these Christians that are very scientists and brilliant people, scholars, that still believe in all this garbage of resurrecting somebody to say with blood. So that's the key, and you see it here in this church. Now, this is the Roman Basilica of St. John Lateran, because the Catholic or Universal Church of the Christus adopted everything from Roman paganism, the many different gods of the Roman Empire, and at the center was the sacrifice god and Christus Julius Caesar, the son of Venus, and of course his son of God, the Prince of Peace, the Emperor God, divine Octavius Caesar Augustus, another Christus were the ones that at the center of the worship of the Father in heaven, the sacrifice Julius Caesar that gave this blood for the kingdom of heaven, which was actually the Roman Empire, the very vast Roman Empire with all the provinces. But here in this church, this is very similar to the way it used to be the Roman rituals in the Roman Empire and of the Christus. In the basilicas where the judges were there to judge, but everything was religious. So you had many different gods. So you they had the altars. The altars were nothing but the table of the sacred presence where the invisible Christos came in. And everything was personified. You have the emotions were personified. Anger was personified. And all that was personified. Here in this basilica, they claim to have the heads of Peter and Paul, which actually never existed. They seem to be simple, different divine Roman emperors and their wives that became saints of the church. The nuns would become the nuns are taken from the Vestal Virgins. That they also had the candelabra of the Vestal Virgins, which is they had these 7 flames. That's what Judaism took their the menorah from. Everything comes from the Roman Empire. You know, you have all the so-called Abrahamic religions are nothing more than sections and divisions of the cult of the sacrificed Christ of Julius Caesar. That's the reason you have Abrahamic, sacrifice of Isaac and Psychosis and the blood sacrifice, and then you have all this in Islam. Also, you have the whipping and the sacrifice, and then you have the angel of the Lord in Judaism and the blood and the circumcision and all that. Everything comes from the Roman Empire and from the many rituals. And so you can see here, they are bound 3 times and they have to do this, and they put the hands like grabbing the penis, because the penis was also considered like a god representing the sun, the race of the sun god since the time of the Egyptians. The robes and all that ceremonies are all sacred. And you have to wear them in a certain way, you have to pray a certain way, all from the Roman Empire. The prayers have to be that exact. Here you have the weighing of the heart and the feather. That from ancient Egypt, you see here the 4 elements. You can see the race of the sun god. You can hear the emperor Hadrian resurrecting a man during the ascension to heavens of his wife, the Empress Sabina, a goddess. You have goddess also having these fruits. With the fruits are nothing but entheogens. Here you have the emperor Hadrian with the patera, which contains hallucinogenic materials. That's what the ceremonies of which the Catholic Church still have today. And you see all that gold and all that, they all come from many of these comes from the comet of Julius Caesar that appeared during his funeral games that was close to Venus. So the Catholic Church adopted everything from the religion of the Christos in the Roman Empire. The vast Roman Empire. In the 4th century, with the establishment of Constantine, the psychopath and criminal, a very bad history on this man, in the moment that he took the religion, the sect of the religion of the Christos, of the divine Christos, in other words, Julius Caesar, the Pater Patria, the Lord in heaven, God, an amazing God, and his title of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is a title, it's not a person. So he separated. So anyway, the cult of the Jesus Christ, Caesar, of now Jesus Christ, of the city of Rome, the only holy city in the empire was the city of Rome, and he made the cult of the Christ of the city of Rome Catholic, in other words, universal, and the favorite cult, and that would become the only one accepted in the whole vast Roman Empire. But the subsequent sons of God emperors that followed, that succeeded him. So therefore, you have now Catholic Christianity. So intolerance had begun. Pedophilia, sadomasochism, intellectual stagnation, burning all the books, reading only one book, etc., etc., etc. And the Dark Ages had begun. That's what happened. It stagnated the intellect of mankind for thousands of years. So, for over 1,000 years. And that is the reason, this is the problem that we have today. That's the reason the Catholic Church is so successful. And the many sects of Christianity, thousands of them emanated from this psychopathy of the belief of the Christus. In other words, religion is simply organized schizophrenia. Christianity is the worst. It's a psychopathy, like HIV, AIDS. It's corrupt the mind, destroys the mind, it creates all the problems experienced today in the world. And people don't see it. It's a mental illness, the worst of all of them. I hope you enjoyed this, because I tell nothing but the truth. So, enjoy the facts. Religion is organized schizophrenia. And Christ psychosis, or the belief in the resurrected zombie Christ, that's true, is the worst of the psychopathies of God belief. Pace de oro.